This is the video that goes through the solve and justify equations in your Geometry Mod 1 packet. So at the beginning, you're going to follow these directions. So go ahead and go to page 104 in your textbook. You're going to write down the left side of the 8 properties of equality below. And then I'm going to talk about how to use these properties. So you can pause the video right now. I'm not going to go through these. I am going to have you add a couple. But here's what you're looking at. If you pull up page 104 out of your book, so it's talking about these 8: addition, property of equality, subtraction, multiplication, division, reflexive, symmetric, transitive, substitution. Also, you'll notice the distributive property is over here on the left. Go ahead and include that one as well. Okay, so I'm actually going to jump right into the examples. So basically, I would like you guys to write those 9, so 9 including the distributive property. Make sure you write those in this space. And then we are going to jump down here to an example about how do we use these properties of equality. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to solve an algebra equation. This should be a review from Algebra 1. But what we're going to do where it says justification here, we are going to write in what property we are using. So always when we're just starting with a statement, this problem is just given to us. So we're always going to actually have our first reason just be given. And then we're going to solve just like I normally would. I'm going to simplify each side of the equal sign, and then I'm going to try and get x by itself. So the first property I'm going to use to simplify is actually that distributive property, where I'm going to take 3 times 5 and 3 times 2x. And then I'm not doing anything yet to that right side. So there I just use the distributive property. So I'm writing which property I am using. And I'm going to abbreviate prop, P-R-O-P. Okay, so now what I would want to do is I would probably want to get my x's together. So I'm going to subtract 6x from both sides. So I am using subtraction, and you'll notice the name of the property is subtraction property of equality. We're going to abbreviate that POE. So any property of equalities, you can abbreviate POE. And those are always going to happen when you're doing the same thing to both sides. Okay, so now I'm going to actually go ahead and do that subtraction. So I'm left with just 15 on the left, 45 now plus 2x. So after doing the operation, we're just going to write simplify. So we subtracted, and then we actually did the math, and we simplified. Okay, so now I'm going to try and get x by itself. So I'm going to subtract 45 from both sides. So again, I am using the subtraction property of equality. And I'm going to go ahead and do the subtraction now. So 15 minus 45 is negative 30 equals 2x. So again, after an operation, you are just simplifying when you're actually doing the calculating. And now we're going to divide both sides by 2. So this is another property of equality, but it is the division property of equality. And then I actually do the division, and I get negative 15 equals x, which is simplifying. And you might notice one of the properties was called the symmetric property of equality. That's just saying I could write this either way. So if I went one more step and I wanted the x on the left, you don't have to do this, but this is just showing what the symmetric property is. So that is the symmetric property of equality. Okay, and again, you don't need that last step. You could stop right there, but that's just what that property shows, is I can switch things on either side of the equal sign. Okay, let's do one more here. Okay, so this one, I have an x squared and an x. This is called a quadratic. So to solve a quadratic, we want to set it equal to 0. So again, I'm given this quadratic to start, that's given. But my first step is I'm going to set it equal to 0. So in order to do that, I have to add 12 to both sides. So I'm doing addition to both sides, so that is the addition property of equality. So I get x squared plus 7x plus 12 equals 0. Okay, and that's just simplifying. There really wasn't any like terms or anything I could put together. I was just rewriting it. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor. So in order for me to solve a quadratic, we're going to factor. So remember what that looks like is that's going to be 2 groups. and the variable goes here and here. So this is always if it has this format. So I have a 1 in front of the x squared, and I have x squared x and a constant. So what I'm looking for is I want numbers that multiply to be 12 that add up to be 7. So those numbers would be 3 and 4, and they're both positive. So if I do positive 3 times positive 4, that equals 12, and positive 3 plus 4 is 7, so that checks out. So I'm just going to write factor there. It's not a property of equality because I did not do it to both sides. It's just a strategy we use to rewrite part of an equation. So why I'm factoring is I'm going to use something called the zero product property. So I'm actually going to pause here right now, you guys, and I'm going to add one more thing up here, up above. I want you to add zero product property. So what that is, I'm also going to show an example. Okay, so the zero product property is if A times B equals 0, then A equals 0 or B equals 0, right? So if I have 0 times B, that's 0. Or if I have A times 0, that's 0. So if I have something being multiplied equal to 0, one of the two things has to be 0 or both could be 0. So that's what I have down here. I have two things being multiplied. These are each factors. So x plus 3 is a factor, x plus 4 is a factor. They're being multiplied and they equal 0. So either this factor has to equal 0 or x plus 4 equals 0. And I'm doing that on the same line. Sorry, that's a little bit hard to read. And that is the zero product property. When I have multiplication, and either piece could be equal to 0, I'm going to set each equal to 0 and solve. So that is the zero product property. Okay, so now I'm going to kind of do these. So I know I have two equations going on here. I'm going to show it at the same time. So to solve this equation, I would subtract 3 from both sides. This one I would subtract 4 from both sides. So I'm using the subtraction, POE. If one was addition and one was subtraction, you could just write addition slash subtraction. That would be fine. So I'm left with x equals -3 or x equals -4 when we simplify. Sorry, I need one more line there. Okay, so linear equations, none of those have an x squared. If you do get an x squared, it's a quadratic. Set it equal to 0, factor, and then you're going to set each factor equal to 0 by that zero product property to find your solutions. Okay, that's it for this first video. Thanks for watching.